When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world.
I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings and salutations. This is SeptumSin versus the world, and we're having another Vlogcast. So we're just sitting back, relaxing, having a little bit of something to drink, and have y'all sit around the fire with us, toast a few marshmallows, to enjoy the end of summer, the beginning of fall. And, of course, declining temperatures and raising temperatures.
I don't see no fire nor no marshmallows.
Well, you know, just wait until I set the house on fire tomorrow. We'll see how that goes.
Hello.
So, we have a bit to go over this time around. We're going to add a couple of the things that we had, that we normally would have talked about in the releases here. Just because we'll just, a lot of them are just small excerpts. For this week, at least, we'll talk about the deaths here. And do things there. Matter of fact, why don't we start off with deaths? Because that way we get the bad out of the way.
Right.
And then we can make room with all the fun. We only have 2. I found one, and Jake found one that just happened today.
Yeah, well, yesterday. Those announced today, yeah.
So, hey, go ahead. You got the bigger one out of the
Yeah, this is a pretty big one, especially in light of the fact that we just 2 weeks ago, I think, did our Inside Movies Galore on Dark Crystal. And this guy was one of the producers on Dark Crystal. Notably, he was also a producer on the first 2 Star Wars movies. I'm talking, of course, about Gary Kurtz. Died at 78. I want to say cancer was what they said.
Yeah.
He had a pretty storied career, but I mean, just those right there, Star Wars, Empire, Dark Crystal, I mean, that's enough to cement him forever in the nerd pantheon. But supposedly he and, it was after Empire, wasn't it? That he and Lucas had a bit of a falling out, and I don't think he was as involved with Jedi, right?
No, but a lot of things changed after Empire.
That was, and a big part of it was, supposedly, he was the guy that kept George Lucas focused and not quite as out there as he wanted to be. So,
Could've used it for the prequels.
But yeah, this, so that was a big one. There were some other notable people the last couple of weeks. Not a huge number. We're taking a little break from the deaths this week, and we want to do sort of a blanket, acknowledgement of all the good people, But
yep. I'm just shifting the work over to Kotobuki Jake.
Yeah.
He values this particular one, and I'm just it takes too long. But I had one that I thought was interesting. Iris Acker, if I'm saying the name right. She was 88. She died on 9/16 of cancer. She was known for movies such as Flight of the Navigator and Cocoon: The Return. Not huge ones, but to me those are part of my childhood. I have both movies sitting here. I really like the Cocoon movies. I really enjoyed Flight of the Navigator. They're fun films. They're great to revisit. I'm not exactly sure how Flight of the Navigator holds up, but I'll find out. I'm going to have to watch it sometime soon.
Now, did you say last week you did do a little bit of a shout out for Peter Donut and Karen Kiki, or was that no?
I did do the slideshow.
Okay.
Last time.
Okay.
So there was a slideshow. That was the last time I did it. Last time I put forth that much effort for it.
Okay.
But yeah, it just takes too long. I mean, when you're sitting there, it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon when you start, and it's 10 o'clock in the evening when you're done with all the editing and stuff, and you're just got all this stuff for production. It's just not worth it. So I leave it to you to do that.
Good times.
So, speaking of good times, let's talk about what we've been watching this week.
Yes.
So, what have you been up to this week in your watching, reading, and, well, I don't know about gaming, but you might have been gaming. You said you might have played some.
Well, we did some gaming here, didn't we? We tried out that Kung Fu Panda thing.
Kung Fu Panda, the fighting game. Terrible.
Oh, man, it was horrible.
Smash
play.
Brothers ripoff.
The play was... And what was that SNK one we did?
Let's see. Samurai Showdown.
Yeah.
One of the later ones that released on the Neo Geo.
Weak graphics, but it was fun to play. Yeah, so I guess we'll start with the what I finished off, I guess. If you, as hopefully you did, as you are good, loyal viewers of all of ours, watched my video on the Great American Read, you'll know that I did finish off Zadie Smith's White Teeth, which is a very good book, and I very much recommend it. And that was one that I went into some depth on that video. So if you really want well, I'd say mid-level analysis. It's not, because I was covering a lot of ground, but you'll get more than here. Shameless plug for other video. But as far as finishing off, 3 TV series got finished off in the past 2 weeks. Well, 2 series and a season.
We're doing watching first.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, finished off, we go back and forth.
Yeah, okay, never mind. I got confused there. So we're doing current watching?
Yep, current watching.
Okay, current
We
watching.
do those in bulk.
Current watching. I'm still working on CSI Season 2. I'm still working on Chihaya Furu, and it is still awesome.
Well, that's
And I'm still working on Lethal Weapon. I'm not really working on, I'm just watching an episode here and there. Still working on Friends, and as far as reading, still working my way through X-Men Gold and My Hero Academia. And both of those, I hit notable milestones this week. My Hero Academia, I thought that the anime was way ahead of me, but now I've realized I've caught up to it. And so I got introduced to the, quote, Big Three, which are a fun group. One of them, I swear, is Fall Out Boy. Now, I don't mean the band. I mean the game character. And X-Men Gold. Volume 5 of the current X-Men Gold series was extremely notable for one particular sequence in which they reunited Excalibur. I was so excited. I grew up, when I got into comics when I was younger, Excalibur was my favorite. I know that is not the cool option. I know that no one else cared about Excalibur. I was one of the 10 that did. But I loved the team. Kitty Pryde, Kurt Wagner, and Megan are 3 of my 5 favorite Marvel characters. And you've also got Rachel Summers, now Rachel Gray, and Brian Braddock. It's a good team. Having all 5 of them back together in one comic that also included Storm, Ileana Rasputin, who's another one of the top 5, bunch of folks, Magma, you don't see much of her anymore. It was a nice little blast from the past in a way. So that was fun, and I liked it. And just seeing Megan was so rare because she's never in the comics.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah.
There was one, I remember Excalibur way back in the 90s when I collected a little bit of it. There was a guy in that, I can't remember what it was. It was like this hunk of metal that had like
Widget?
these, yes, Widget. And I remember Widget.
Yeah.
He kind of had a couple different like incarnations.
Yeah.
I remember he was like a little Pac-Man looking thing for a while, and then he looked more human-like. But I don't remember a lot about him.
He was basically a sentient pile of scrap. That's pretty much it. But Yeah, so what are you currently watching?
Well, I'm currently going through a couple things. I'm actually currently reading a Skip Beat again. I have finished all of the triple packs, so now I'm on the single volumes. Volume, let's see here, 37.
37.
I'm on right now. And so there's 41 volumes, so I am almost done. So, as far as that's concerned, I've been enjoying that. I got over the hump. I admit there was one of the storylines that I found kind of dry was the initial storyline where it was just her and the love interest being brother and sister for a while, and I mean it culminated in a very powerful thing, but the way that they started to end it was much better, in my opinion. I don't know. I was getting bored with that particular. But back to interested again. I still say that that's gone a little bit too long, which is kind of weird because I considered the anime too short.
Well, it's because the anime just kind of stopped.
But still quality series.
Yeah.
As far as playing, I'm playing on Silent Hill 2, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do separate videos after I've completed each game, so as to sort of review each of the games as I play them. So you won't have to deal with me doing that for a little while. And also Fallout 4, which has sucked me in again. Which is why I'm not making much progress in Silent Hill 2. Me and my wife continue to watch MasterChef Junior. We're getting close to the end. We got an episode where they actually had to cook for all of the former MasterChef contestants. Or junior contestants, I should say. So that was kind of cool, watching the kids as they've kind of gotten older and look different, especially Alexander. He looks very different. I'm watching two, of course, somewhat similar. I'm working on Disenchanted. I'm up to episode 10 now. I don't know how many episodes they put out this season for Netflix. But I know it can't be that many more. They don't usually put many in a season for Netflix. And I've been rewatching Futurama. I never completed Futurama, so I'm going to keep going until I get to the end. And you'll see why in the pickups in the future.
Technically, you could also include Futurama on my list because, it's not uncommon for me to watch parts of episodes at night. But
it's a fun series.
Oh, it is.
I'm on, I think I'm at season 3 now. I'm watching Reborn, of course. They're currently in the Ring saga where they're battling over the rings with the Vongeling rings with the Varia. Which is really where the show truly amped itself up, shonen-wise. And finally, of course, me as well, watching My Hero Academia. Which, I'm watching the anime as it comes out, and it's behind the manga, but I expect that. I'm used to that. I just don't have time to read it all. I've got too much going on.
It's actually not terribly far behind, which, like I said, I was kind of surprised. It's like, and the way I knew was I finished off, I think it was volume 14, and then the next day I was on ANN, and they're like, character designs for the big 3, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not behind.
Well, I've got something here to start us off with the actual watched. That we both watched, which was this weekend. We watched Perfect Blue, which, if you haven't already tuned in, you should be tuning in to our discussion on Inside Movies Galore, where we talk about all the ins and outs of this movie.
Yes.
It is an excellent film. Sadly, we need a higher definition release, and hopefully the movie showing of it let people know, hey, there's interest in Satoshi Kon's stuff. You need to release better volumes. Do a Blu-ray, at least, remaster of Perfect Blue. Paranoia Agent. Matter of fact, do a Satoshi Kon collection with all the movies and Paranoia Agent. They're
So
not
get
that
on
many.
that Criterion.
It's not that many. You
Yeah.
could easily do that.
Yeah.
You could bundle. There have seen bigger bundles than that.
Yeah.
So I guess, like I said, we'll go back and forth with this. What else have you watched? Now we got back to watched Red.
Yeah, and of course, I'm not going to say too much on Perfect Blue because if you tune into that discussion, and besides, I saw it a couple weeks ago, but this was my first time seeing the English dub, so I did get to do that. And speaking of movies galore, let's go ahead and say in the last 2 weeks, I also watched Django for the first time, and again, you can tune into last week's discussion for that. And get to hear all of our thoughts on the other spaghetti western classic that was not the Sergio Leone, Clint Eastwood.
Grongo.
Yes. It gave us that wonderful song Django, which became Grongo. But also, I don't know where our host for the show got that clip, but it had the worst subtitles ever. It was hilarious watching it with those subs. But at any rate, yeah, so we got that one in, and that's a classic, and I'm glad we saw it. And can we pause for a second?
Yeah, so, any case. Alright, well, I finished another series I'd been working on, which was Hitalia World Twinkle.
Ooh,
So now I've watched
Shiny.
all of Hitalia, because it's got 6 seasons and a movie, and I've watched all of it. And I still am of the same opinion. It probably would have been better if it stopped after the first couple of seasons. The first season was excellent. It's a hilarious series. But I feel like it went off into left field after a while. I don't know.
Nicotalia.
Nicotalia was cute
It was
and interesting. But I just, I don't know. I felt like it was a bit more aimless as it went on. It was still entertaining. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I don't know. The quality is just not like it was the first season.
Yeah.
You've yet to see that one, right? Or
I've not
have you?
seen the final 2 seasons. I think I saw 3 and 4, but I can't remember.
Oh, if you get a hold of them, they are quick watches. I'll give it that. It's like it's like an hour to watch an entire season. They're 5-minute episodes.
If I ever get caught up to where I can start making forward progression in my TV series, Hitalia is one of the first ones that'll come up.
Do you have all of it now? Or?
No, I have the first 4 seasons.
Okay, so just 2 more to go. Do you have the movie?
Yeah.
Because I remember you got the movie too. Did you get the special edition?
Yeah.
Which was kind of a crappy special edition. But
that was a jip.
that was a bad Funimation
Yeah.
special edition.
Every now and then they drop the ball slightly. But anyway, another one this past week, I revisited a Hitchcock film that I am quite fond of. It's the Cary Grant, Ingrid Bergman film Notorious, where Bergman plays the daughter of a German accused of treason against the U.S., and the federal government gets her to insinuate herself in a circle of German expats living in Brazil. And this, of course, was in the wake of World War II, or, Nazi remnants and all that stuff. Nazis, exactly. And Claude Rains plays the Nazi she ends up befriending and marrying as part of the sting operation, if you will. It was a pretty interesting movie. It was pretty typical for its time, I guess you could say. Typical kind of romantic thriller. The female falls in love with the Cary Grant way too easily and quickly. And generally, though, it's a good film. Hitchcock does make good films, and Notorious is an entertaining film. So
I've yet to see that one. And I've seen a lot of Hitchcock films.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the same Velvet collection you've got.
Yeah, that's a cool set.
I still need to see North by Northwest, and you gave
You
me that
haven't
one.
seen that one?
No.
Oh man, you are missing out on that one.
It's just it's finding time for a lot of these things, and of course, I have been doing some watching.
But actually, that was one thing we were just briefly talking about last week's discussion on Inside Movies Galore, and a point I started to make, and it got kind of drowned out. But I was talking about the difference in representation of female characters over the years. The point was brought up with Django, and I started to make a point using Notorious, and it got drowned out. But we'll come up on a couple of sets coming up soon. Shows, I've already mentioned Chihaya Furu. I've been watching some stuff with very strong female characters. And to be honest, this character in Notorious, I loved the movie the first time I saw it, but watching it in the middle of all these other things that I'm reading and watching, I didn't like her as much this time around. And a lot of it was the fault of the writing. It was a product of its time. You know, and Hitchcock was not known for being progressive when it comes to.
Oh God, no! I do want to get that. You know,
yes,
I have. It has been for $5 for a while now.
Yeah.
The Blu-ray Hitchcock.
Ah.
And it did get an Oscar
Oh,
nomination.
the movie Hitchcock. I like that. It's a good movie.
It was a really good movie.
Yeah.
But Hitchcock was a terrible person, from what I heard. You talk about Me Too. I mean, God damn. Well,
Yeah.
one that probably would not go on the Me Too circuit was one I watched again, which
Yeah.
was Evil Bong 777. And if you haven't watched it, I did do a review of Evil Bong 777. It is a second review, sort of a second look, so to speak, because I backed the project with Evil Bong 777 because I like to back quality. Okay, I can't really say that with a straight face. I guess the good thing that there's no picture here. Of course, laughing doesn't help with that. But I did back it, and I got to see it as a preview, free preview for it. And I wasn't superly impressed. And then I did a review for Inside Movies Galore. You can take a look at that. Just type it in and type in Inside Movies Galore. You'll find it. Or, of course, you can always look at the recent one I did, which involved not just the film, me revisiting the film, but also all the special features. And there were a couple really good ones. And I mentioned one in the Inside Movies Galore talk, I believe, which was there was a monster museum that they used in the filming, and they had a wonderful documentary. It actually raised my my rating from a 6 to a 7.
It's always good when the bonus features are awesome.
It's just the movies have been aimless since basically Evil Bong versus Ginger Dead Man.
See, I would argue they were aimless after the first movie.
I
The
thought
second one,
it had a point. And
yeah,
the third one had a sort of point. The rest of them, no. It was a point about showing women topless and just kind of screwing around. I have to wonder if Charles Band even had like scripts for it.
they have no scripts like Wilder 2 years.
666 actually did, I think, bring back the idea of having a general plot. And
What a novel idea.
And had like hell, like sexy hell, which was apparently ruled by, I swear the actor looks like Bud Bundy from, which I would expect to try and rule sexy hell. So there were some entertaining parts of it, and I do like movies in Vegas. I don't know what it is, but Vegas is just a cool place to do movies. So, in any case, you should check it out. It is selling pretty cheap now. But not my copy, because my copy is signed by Charles Band and several people. So,
See, I'm sorry, I'm not as familiar as you are with Married with Children, and I haven't seen the movie. But you say that, and I just get this image of Katie Sagal showing up in her best Leela voice and just making some snide comments about the whole thing. She was the mother in that one, right? Am I remembering that correctly? Yes. So, my go?
Yep, your go.
So, speaking of shows with going back to my previous thing of shows with a strong female character, if you watched our pickup videos, which of course you did, then you heard my commentary already on Sword Art Online. I actually sat down and watched the show in about 3 days because I wanted to give that feedback. And I do not leave eBay feedback for used stuff if I can't watch it. I do apologize to the people I buy from, but I want to watch it and then I'll leave feedback. I left feedback on Orange because it was brand new. So, you know, that. So I did give very good feedback because I got a good deal with this one. But Sword Art Online, I'm not going to go into too much more detail. I just say watch the other video. But I say again, Asuna was a badass character. I loved almost every second she was on screen until they turned her into freaking Sleeping Beauty. The second half of the show is like the second half of Death Note after L. It's Now then they do bring in Lifa, who is also a strong character. Unfortunately, there's an aspect of Lifa, her real life counterpart. It plays off of a trope in anime that I could do without. The Emoto character who's madly in love with Oni-chan, even though they're technically cousins in this one.
Oni-chan.
Yes. Really, it's overused and a bit creepy. But the character is really cool, except for that somewhat creepy bit. And then, of course, you get the super creep boss in that part of the series. One of the worst douchers in all of anime. So anyway, it is a flawed series, but it was a fun watch. I'm glad I saw it. And that was definitely, it's going to set up my next one.
Well, speaking of chauvinism and anime,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I finished season 1 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
How bizarre.
Well, oddly enough, not as bizarre as you would think. Stardust Crusaders is where everybody really caught on to JoJo and really loved it. That's the one that they had. That's the arc that they did the OVA of, which you can't buy very cheaply. Or really, I should say 2 volumes of very cheaply. You can buy the rest pretty damn cheaply. But you know, I got some of the new releases, and you would have seen them on the pickups if you've been paying attention. And the first arc is actually pretty straightforward. It's just like a basic vampire anime. And the second one gets a little bit odder. And there is a strange obsession with bodybuilders and flexing. There's more flexing in this than Armstrong has in the entire Full Metal Alchemist anime and manga combined.
That is a frightening concept. Armstrong and Sieg together?
Yes.
Oh, dear God.
Because every male character that's not a child is a muscle man. It's like He-Man, the Masters of the Universe, where every male is this bulky, over-muscled character because they couldn't change the body type. And when they're in resting form, they're always in flexing pose.
Do they glisten?
Sometimes. And, though, in general, it is a fairly good story. It is entertaining. There's a little bit of chauvinism, but that's been accused of that type of thing from the series.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the women are considered weak-willed in some aspects, though the second half of it is pretty good. The first half is the original JoJo and Dion, which is the well-known villain. Yeah. Mainly from Stardust Crusaders, but you get to know a little bit about Dion, how he became what he became. And it is a really well-done story. It takes place in Victorian England. The second portion of it is again the grandson of JoJo, and which is also named, I think it's Jonathan and then Joseph, or Joseph and Jonathan. I can't remember which one is which. And he's an arrogant asshole as opposed to the well-meaning original character. But the second series had a lot more heart and overall enjoyment. Overall entertainment value. But it involves this mask, this cursed mask that turns people into vampires. And then, of course, they are vampires that can do some pretty nasty things. Like, they can basically, they'll put their fingers through your neck into your veins and suck your blood that way.
Okay.
Yeah, it is kind of nasty, really. But the other series involves these elder gods being reawakened. And the elder gods created the masks, which create vampires. And it ended in a very, over the top scene. They're fighting at a volcano. The volcano shoots the freaking piece of rock into the air. They battle on the rock as the rock is hurtling into space. And they're fighting right on the edge of outer space on a rock that's been hurtling up from a volcano blasting. It is it's just over the top, but it is glorious. If you haven't seen it, do enjoy it. It is not something extremely strange. I was expecting something like Bobobo, which, no. This is coherent. Bobobo is not. So that was what I have there. So
okay.
Your next one?
So, every now and then you get a really freaking funny, weird, what the hell coincidence. And such a thing happened to me over this last block of time since we met. I already mentioned Sword Art Online, which, if you know anything about the series, it basically involves a whole bunch of people in a massive multiplayer online game, VR game, where they're practically living, well, they have to live in the game because they're trapped. But, as fate would have it, at the exact same time I was winning this auction from eBay, well, not exact same, but within days, I got a movie I've been waiting on for a while now from the library, and I went ahead and watched it while I was in the midst of watching SAO. I finally got to watch Steven Spielberg's release from this spring, Ready Player One, which is also about people playing an MMO, VR MMO, that's very, very immersive, where they're practically living in this alternate world. And it basically, if you've watched the channel, you've heard my commentary on the book. I did read the book by Ernest Cline, and it was pretty awesome. It is a really good book. A lot of people accused him of just gobbling up pop culture and spitting it back out, and I'm like, well, that is nerd culture. It really is. No offense, we are nerds, but and that's one reason why I love I love Ready Player One. The movie does make some changes. I had heard much had been made how Spielberg had largely extricated himself from the story, which is kind of weird. But what I didn't realize is they actually change a lot from the book. They change a lot. They completely change two of the challenges. They completely change how the main character, Wade Watts, aka Percival, meets his ain true love, Artemis. They completely change the fact him and H are no longer at school most of the time. They kind of launch them right into the whole world of being adventurers and all that kind of stuff. There's a whole lot of changes. And some of them are great and some of them are not. And some of them were... It's still a fun movie. It may be a hot mess, but it's a fun movie. And I enjoyed it, and I'm glad I saw it. The book is better, without question, but there are some elements of seeing this stuff thrown together visually that you just don't get from the book, like at the beginning, the race was not in the book. The race was new to the movie, but you got a scene that throws together elements from, Watts' custom vehicle is a DeLorean based off of Back to the Future. Artemis is driving Tetsuo's bike from Akira. You've got King Kong. You've got the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. You got all this stuff thrown together in one big, massive sequence, and it's like, this is cool. You know what I mean? It's like, it's cool seeing it on screen. And they're actually, it's not confirmed, but there is belief that there is some overlap with SAO, because the sequence where they go into the world, where the boot up sequence, is very similar in both. And there's an element at the very end of the movie that looks like it was cribbed directly from SAO. So there's a lot of overlap. And then there's also the fact that the original light novels for SAO were released 2 years after the book Ready Player One. And I believe those novels borrowed from Ready Player One. I think there is some connection there, because there's... Now, Ernest Cline has said that he borrowed heavily from Summer Wars, and I'm pretty sure SAO borrowed from Summer Wars, so Mamoru Hosoda's in the mix there. But at any rate, it's a fun movie, worth watching. Spielberg is rarely at the top of his game. He is not at the top of his game here, but even when he's off his game, his movies are still worth, they're worth a watch.
Well, my next one is one that I brought up in the pickups, which is Icarus. I finally got to see it. I know you got to see it a while back. And it is a genuinely good documentary about the Russians cheating in the Olympics, essentially. It seems like Russia is in the news a lot over the last couple of years. So I guess, depending on where you fall politically, you probably agree with this or hate it. I don't know. I really don't know if the drugging really has anything to do with the other politics, but the president of Russia is involved, if you believe it or not. And it was an interesting documentary. It started out as a documentary mainly about a guy who was going to do almost a Super Size Me thing with steroids.
Almost.
And then it took a very weird turn.
Yeah.
As things do. You never know what's going to happen. Yeah. And it was a very interesting documentary. It's worth a watch. If you've got Netflix, it is on Netflix. If you have some money and you want to go on eBay, you could probably find a copy of it. It does not have an official physical release, which is crap. And probably never will, which is also crap.
Yeah. It's worth saying that the Russian guy who is at the center of the scandal, the documentary paints him as a really cool guy. He made some very poor choices, but he's very personable. He's very likable. You enjoy seeing, you kind of hate to see him get crapped on by the Russian government, basically, even though he was doing stuff he wasn't supposed to. It's not like the way the documentary presents it, it's not like the government was blameless there. So
I was thinking it probably wasn't they wasn't supposed to. It was that the government wasn't supposed to, and he was just following orders.
Right.
But, again, it could be either way. Of course, you can always talk in the comments down below as to why you think this guy might be lying, or whether you feel like Putin is innocent.
Now, I did hear a news blurb that is related to this yesterday or something. I think they're saying that the Russians are going to be allowed to compete again in the next games. It's like whatever suspension or whatever they had is over or something. Which, really, that amounts to a slap of the wrist, really. That's not even...
they had a little bit of a... They had a ban, like, in the last Olympics, but I can't remember much.
Something like that.
But, so what's your next one up?
So, I guess, as far as watched... In total, that is what I've watched. But I've started a new series. I've only watched a couple episodes so far. But I finally started watching the old 80s caper comedy series, Cat's Eye, which is quite interesting. It is definitely an older series. I don't remember the exact dates, but early 80s. It's it looks it. But it was released by Nozomi, and they did a nice solid release. I'm working on set 1 of 2. It was basically a 2-season series. Lengthy. I want to say it was at least 80 episodes. I don't remember the number, but it's a lot. But Cat's Eye is a fun series. I enjoy it so far. Not high art. It's not the... kind of in the same vein as Lupin in a ways, but the thieves are female. It's a trio of sisters. My understanding is that their father had been an art collector whose collection was disassembled somehow, and they are stealing the pieces that he owned. That is their gist of it. So technically they're not stealing so much as reclaiming. But it's a fun show. One of them happens to be dating the Zenigata of the series, the cop who's supposed to catch them. He has no idea it's them. The fact that they don't use masks, that they only use rather tight bodysuits, and that the youngest one, her bodysuit is bright orange, and you think it would draw the eye in the nighttime. Somehow no one has figured out who these girls are.
I keep seeing it on sale. One of these days I'll pick it up.
They even run a bar called Cat's Eye, and they comment with the cop. He says, "You should change the name of the bar. It's giving you a bad name." It's like,
So, is it worth the money you paid for it so far?
I paid like $25, so yeah, it's worth it so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
I only have one more left that I've watched, and that's one might hit closer to home because it has a lot to do with the heroin epidemic. Which is a horror movie called Psychotica. My wife, as usual, will always say, like, let's put on something before sleep, and then she'll say, so I'll say, what do you want? Something scary. And I'm like, why? So I went ahead and was like, I need to watch this. And it's a horror movie about some heroin addicted teens or young adults. And they decide we are going to just do one more thing. Because one of their friends got this stuff that was bad, and he ended up committing suicide. And so they said, you know what, we're just going to do one more score, and then we're going to get clean. And we're going to go out to the mountains and to this isolated cabin. We're just going to ride it out together. We'll be good. So they get a supply of stuff, and they go to the cabins. What they don't know is that part of the supply is tainted. That the government is trying to create this special heroin that makes people try and kill themselves, but part of it actually makes them into homicidal monsters. Which, of course, guess which one they end up getting a dose of. So one of them ends up becoming a homicidal monster, and they have to try and escape that. And they have to escape the government, who is trying to silence all the people who have been exposed to it.
Good times.
It's a very dark film, but there is some reality tinged in this. I mean, if you think about it, fentanyl and its stronger elephant tranquilizer cousin have been making the appearance. Oddly enough, and there have been a lot of people theorizing that the government is the one to blame, that they want to kill off all of those people they deem as undesirables.
Yeah.
I will tell you, when it comes to that stuff, it's a terrible epidemic. People are dying because of it, and I don't mean like in the old days. I'm talking about they get something in there that they did not expect.
Yeah.
It's a scary movie in more ways than one. And because of that, I think it's fairly decent as far as a monster film.
All right.
And that's all I got.
That was all you got, including your finished stuff?
That's finished.
Okay.
I mean, I'm starting to read Knights of the Dinner Table again.
Oh,
but that's
good
about
times.
It.
Well, I finished off 3 series, like I said, and I've got a couple of reading ones to mention, too. I finished off And Yet the Town Moves, which is a very strange, short little series. A lot of fun. Wonderful theme songs. Both of the themes are great.
I like the
and
themes.
they're and great animation going with them. And the show takes a weird spin into super serious territory in the final episode. But it brings it back around by the end, and it was a very interesting way to finish it off. I finished off Friends season 8. You know, so I'm finally down to just 2 more seasons. And, you know, most of y'all know Friends, you know. There's not too much to report there. Season 8's the one where Rachel had the baby, you know, so that's, you know, the biggest thing there. Yeah, exactly. And then, okay, I finally got sick and freaking tired of waiting and complaining and all this stuff. So, I got my Blu-ray player. I'm not leaving it in the common area for now. But I finished off Ground Control to Psycho Electric Girl.
Now I have to start doing it.
And I come to figure out, though, I don't know, you haven't looked at this one, right?
No, not yet.
I haven't looked at the DVDs, but I found out that one of the issues I had with the Blu-ray may not have been the player so much as NIS screwed up.
Well,
I'm sorry to say that. They don't have a title screen for the second Blu-ray disc. I thought at first that the player was messing up, but when I got a different player, I was able to determine there is no title screen. I was able, after 10 minutes of searching, to find a way to play the episodes. But that annoyed me. But it was nice to finish the show off. It's a fun show. It's a weird show. It has kind of a soft ending. It's one of those ones I thought should have gotten another season just because it leaves you with as many questions as you had in the first place.
Yeah.
But it was a fun show, and I liked it. And it ends in a decent spot.
So we're back on our NIS track.
Yes.
Start working towards the
slowly,
big video eventually.
Slowly but surely.
Just let me know when you need to borrow some of mine.
Right. And then the last I have to report on is reading. I read what I think is the entire mini-series. I need to look at this to be sure. But I read an X-Men comic called Phoenix Endsong. And it was about supposedly the final destruction of the Phoenix. The problem is, it didn't seem to jibe with the comics I have read. And I don't know. And it said a publication date of 2017. I'm like, this does not compute.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know how this fits into the story. This does not compute. So, it was an interesting comic. It was almost a painterly way of doing the images, which gave it a nice visual look. But I did think it was weak writing compared to what I've read before. And again, I don't know this story arc, how it fits in. But I read it. It was interesting. And the final one is the big one of the reading for the week. This was a big one. This is a book it is actually the second time I put it on hold. And it's the second book I've read by Kristen Hanna. I had read The Nightingale, which is a great book. Really great book about sisters in World War II. But this book is her new one. It's called The Great Alone. And it's about a family, the Albrights. You got the father, Ernst, who's a Vietnam vet. You've got the mother, Cora, and the daughter, Lenny, who at the start of the book is 13. And her parents are pretty young, too, especially her mother. And it takes place, it starts in 74, and then it skips to 78, and then it skips to 86. And I didn't even realize there was a third part because it's so late in the story and it's pretty short. And I can't talk about it without giving away spoilers for the rest of the book. But basically at the beginning, Ernst is a vet with serious anger issues who has not made the adjustment home well. And Cora is the loving, devoted wife, and Lenny is, a fairly innocent girl who's in danger of being a wallflower at yet another school. And Ernst's war buddy, who had died, Holden, I'm getting the name wrong, but it's in that ballpark.
Bridges.
No, Bo Holden, I want to say is his name, died, and Ernst finds out that he had left him some land in Alaska. So he's like, yay, we can start over, we can go. And so they, with a week's notice, they moved to Alaska. And Lenny is thrilled to find out there is a school. She's shocked and thrilled to find out that the one kid who is her age happens to be a boy who happens to have the same interests she does. So, of course, they become thick as thieves. And Ernst falls in with Beau's family, particularly his father, who calls himself Mad Earl. You know that if someone calls himself Mad something, you gotta wonder. And the two of them become drinking buddies, and, well, some of the paranoid conspiracy theorists that we know, right? These people make them look tame. So, and you've talked before about bad, codependent, toxic relationships.
Oh, like a phantom thread.
Exactly. Ernst and Cora make them look great. Cora, I hated Ernst Albright. I despised him. And I loved Lenny. And this is one of the reasons I love the book. Because when you get that strong a feeling for characters, it says something about the writing, I think. Ernst is a piece of crap. And Lenny is awesome. She is, one of those strong female characters I was talking about. And some of these other characters, Matthew, her friend, is really cool. And a lot of the characters, there's one who calls herself, again, some of them have colorful nicknames for themselves. There's this woman who used to be a prosecutor who calls herself Large Marge.
For a moment, I thought you said used to be a prostitute.
No, prosecutor. But it's a really good book. It really good. It really gets into the psychology of codependent relationships. It really gets into the psychology of being a war survivor, of being a survivor in general. And it really gets into the psychology of having to live in the wild. So it was really interesting, and I loved it. And I'm very much looking forward to reading more by this author. But that was really it for the reading and viewing for the week. So I guess if you want to run into the news, we can.
Well, we still got a couple of release things.
Oh yeah, right.
Let's go with the movies, because I have that up. One of the first ones, My Hero Academia 2 Heroes this week had premiered and then went away. I hate how that is.
I hope I can see it.
It's supposed to be here on Tuesday. We're recording this on Monday.
Yeah.
I can't see it because they decided to put it on a Tuesday. Yeah. Why can't they put it on a weekend, give it a normal release schedule?
Yeah.
I love the anime. I really want to see the movie. I'm just going to have to wait until it releases on a streaming site.
Yeah. What do you want, Khalees? Okay.
You go ahead. I'll be back.
I don't really have any notes on releases, so if that's what we're doing right now, you should go ahead and go through them all.
Totoro.
Well, Totoro, yeah. They're doing the Ghibli Fest is continuing. My Neighbor Totoro. 3 screenings, I believe. Yeah, they've been doing that with most of them. They typically do one Japanese screening and 2 American, English language screenings. I wanted to go to that. I don't think I'm going to be able to, but if you've never seen Totoro, or you really like to see it in theaters, you may get a chance to. So definitely look into that. That'll be worth doing. And yeah, I think.
Transformers.
Oh yeah, that's a one night only, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, and then Transformers the movie, the animated film from the mid '80s, which I have seen in theaters. If I am not much mistaken, it was the first movie that I ever saw in theaters. It's been a minute. Since
Swan Song of Orson Welles.
Yes, the Swan Song of Orson Welles. as he plays a planet that eats everything in its path.
And nothing
Much
wrong
has
with
been,
that.
yes. Given Orson Welles' reputation the last few years of his life, a lot of people have made a lot of that interesting casting choice. But I will say this. You know how people like to sync up classic movies with records? My brother did that once and synced up the Transformers movie with The Wall, I believe it was.
Ah,
That's the one that has Enter the Machine, right?
yeah.
Yes, that song does play at the exact moment Megatron is eaten by the planet. So that was pretty funny.
Actually, that movie was very dark for
Yes,
a Transformers movie.
yes.
You got a lot of deaths of
Yes.
very well-known characters in it,
Yeah.
which they brought back later. But
Yeah.
at the time, that was like soul-crushing for children.
Yeah. I had not yet become the big comic fan that was used to the idea that death is but a scratch.
Yeah, apparently.
That's
I
like
felt
that
better.
that X-Men comic. I think this was an actual thing from canon.
Yeah.
I don't think it was just the artist of the comics, but I saw it in the comic and I said, my God, would they have really done this? They actually, for Jean Grey's tombstone, it says under her name, she will rise again. It's like, now,
damn straight.
granted, it is Jean Grey we're talking about, but
I think probably the most resurrections of any character in comics.
jeez, well, she is the Phoenix, so
Yeah.
you know.
So I guess we'll go with game releases. It's mainly me on this one. One that might be fun. There are two that I might eventually get, depending on if the price is right. One would be fun to just play around with people. I'm waiting to hear reviews, which is Mario Party for Switch. I've heard a lot of good things. It's a friendship wrecker, but so is Mario Kart, and that's still fun to play with people. And it's a board game, and you play mini games on the board game. I've never played a Mario Party game, believe it or not, and this is like the 9th or 10th game. It's a lot of games in that series. So I'd be interested in doing it. It'd be a fun party game. Maybe eventually in the future if I can get Kemp to play it. Maybe. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I guess the annual Assassin's Creed release. I put that out because it's supposed to be somewhat different. It's supposed to be more role-playing game-like, so I'm curious as to how it will turn out. It takes place in ancient Greece. So I'm curious. I mean, the last one took place in ancient Egypt. So again, I'm curious how this will go. I've yet to play an Assassin's Creed game as well, and there are a million of those.
I don't believe I've played them either. I saw the movie.
Oh, wow. Even more than I have. Last but not least, one that we probably both played a game of, which is Mega Man 11. I'm sure you've played at least one Mega Man
I've
game
played
in your
Mega
life.
Man, but not much. It was never my favorite.
It's it's a platformer. It's been around since both of us were young, and it's the 11th in the series. Capcom finally said, "Oh, people are interested in this. I guess we'll release one." And it looks really good. People have played the demos, and the demo plays really cool. I mean, you've got the ability to slow down time or increase your booster. It's actually a pretty cool thing. They actually upped the graphics. It's not an 8-bit one like 10 was. Because they had been doing some 8-bit sequels, which were kind of weird. But otherwise, though, I'm curious about those. Those look interesting. And now, the news. And I will
Bad news.
I will let you lead off with the story because I got to run up real quick.
Okay.
And lead off with one that I have no interest in.
Oh, well, I'm not sure which ones you have no interest in, so we'll just pick some stuff. Okay, so first thing we got, we'll talk about expiring license expirings and license expirations. There have been a couple announcements this week. It's always unfortunate, but Funimation is dropping their license for Lupin III, The Woman Called Fujiko Mine, which I'm honestly kind of surprised about. I wonder if Discotek is trying to pick it up or something, because they're doing all the other Lupin stuff. I don't know. I've seen The Woman Who Called Fujiko Mine. It's a lot darker than most of the Lupin stuff, but it's very interesting. Very interesting. And Sentai Filmworks is dropping their license to the Marduk Scramble trilogy. It's a trilogy of films that I have not yet gotten around to purchasing. I know Septum has at least the first one. I think he has all of them. I'm interested in the shows, but I have not seen them. But it's a shame that Sentai's dropping them. They're going to become probably very expensive very quickly, which means this year's Right Stuff sale, I will have to get them. Because they've been cheap in the past.
I hope Sentai
they will be this
time. Is
What's
Sentai keeping their Cobra ones? Because I know that Nozomi lost that license.
I don't know. I don't know. Okay.
I hate that series has been divided.
Yep. So, you wanted to jump in with something now?
Well, let's talk about Beyonce.
Okay.
I know we're totally going in opposite directions here today. Apparently, Beyonce's drummer is accusing her of witchcraft.
Really?
Yes, killing her kitten, tapping her phone. Who knows? Maybe some of that might be true. I don't know. Maybe Beyonce is doing that.
That's some crazy stuff, though.
But she's like cursed her with some stuff and all this stuff, supposedly. I just thought it was very odd. Maybe there should be some investigation, at least in some part of this. I'm not sure about the witchcraft part, but
I don't know. Maybe that would explain her and the hubby basically ruling the world the way they do.
Well, that's true. Well, she is pretty much she is the most popular musician. Period.
Pretty much.
I mean, she got more star power than any of them.
Well, she's gorgeous. She can sing. She's, a good business person. And apparently a good practitioner of witchcraft. I don't know.
I wouldn't blame her. I wouldn't be putting it aside.
Anyway, speaking of celebrity news, actually, let's stick with the news of the weird for a minute. Actress Fan Bingbing, the very attractive Chinese woman who played Blink in X-Men Days of Future Past and is a big star back home in China. And she apparently has been missing since June. That right there is weird.
Well, maybe she
But
is
then
Blink.
This is the weird part. Rumor has it she has been arrested by the Chinese government for tax evasion.
Yeah.
And they're just keeping it on the down low.
Chinese government has been doing some shady stuff lately.
That I don't know how much truth there is to that accusation, but I'm like, I read that and I was like, that's some weird stuff there. But yeah.
Well, from people to puppets. Sesame Street writer confirms Bert and Ernie are indeed a couple, which was then refuted by Frank Oz.
Who said they're freaking puppets?
Yes. So, to me, I don't really care one way or the other. They can be gay if they want to be. Sesame Street does try to show representation. I mean, they've got an autistic puppet, for goodness sakes. Or a Muppet, really, because I guess the Sesame Street characters are Muppets, really. So, I mean, it's an all-inclusive show. Do what you will with it. I always thought their relationship was kind of odd, but it could go either way as far as I'm concerned. It had more of an odd couple feel, tell you the truth, than a gay couple feel, but however you want to swing it. I'm not really...
Well, there's probably some people would say about that couple, but yeah, I mean, is this really surprising? I mean, we all know that Elmo is a minion of Satan, and...
well, I've known that for years.
Yeah, and... what's his name? The Count. Have you ever watched his counting song? He is a dirty character now. Seriously, if you've never watched his counting song where they bleep out the word count, oh, it's great. But anyway, so speaking of hilarious videos, this isn't really news per se. This could have gone under my watching, but I saw this today and I'm like, I had to facepalm big time. And I watched it, and I'm like, I can't make up my mind if I killed brain cells or if I it bettered my health through laughter. I don't know. But I don't know if you saw this little thing. Nerdist posted a video where Tommy, what's his face? Tommy.
Everybody knows Tommy. What's his face?
The guy from The Room.
Wiseau.
Yeah, Tommy Wiseau, and his and Greg Sestero recreated the interrogation sequence from The Dark Knight with Tommy as the Joker and Greg as Batman. And you should watch this video if you haven't already. It's so many levels of awful that it's great. It is.
Well, Tommy Wiseau is fun. Oh wait, is that the Joker audition?
Well, no, this is different. He did.
Oh.
He also did a Joker audition, which apparently was him auditioning for the role in full face paint.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that video
That's
yet.
hilarious. So, Jordan Peele is back in the news because
Right.
there's a new Twilight Zone series coming out.
Oh,
I look forward to this. I need to see more Twilight Zone. And Jordan Peele is actually going to be the host of the new Twilight Zone. So
Cool.
I am curious about it. He really is more into the horror scene.
right.
I mean, I've heard that he is planning on doing a new Candyman movie. So this will be along that lines. Because of the time, I've got to put a fish in the oven. So why don't you go ahead with the Suge Knight story, because that way I can stay away from the social commentary, and you're welcome to give as much as you want.
Okay, and I guess if he takes too long to get down, I'll go ahead and knock out a couple other things too. Okay, so Suge Knight, the co-founder of Death Row Records, who has, to put it mildly, a history of run-ins with the law, apparently was incensed by something to do with the filming of the film Get Straight Outta Compton. So in 2015, he got into an altercation which involved him injuring one person and killing another with the vehicle that he was in. This week, he pled guilty to manslaughter for the things that happened. He apparently pled guilty in order to avoid worse charges, as is often the case in these situations. Prosecutors are pushing for 28 years. His actual sentencing, I think, is in a week and a half from now. So we'll find out what it actually is. But yeah, they're pushing for 28 years, which is a lot more than Bill Cosby apparently got. Apparently that official came back, and I think he got like 3 years for his charges. I've got to admit, Suge Knight, he's known. He has a reputation. Even if you've never seen Straight Outta Compton, the dude is known for being someone that you really don't want to cross. And he does not come off well in the movie. I'm going to tell you that. He comes off like a gangster in that movie. But yeah, that caps a pretty long-running story there, and I guess the actual sentencing will be the cap to it. But that's a good example of someone who was a kingmaker at one point in his career, who probably is better off not being in that position of power anymore. Let's be honest, but He definitely, in the early days of Death Row Records, he was a very important player. So, yeah, so that happened. On lighter news, Right Stuff is doing a Kickstarter campaign for a Blu-ray dubbed release of their series Emma, A Victorian Romance. So far, they've only announced season 1. There's 2 seasons. I believe Nozomi recently dropped their original license for that one. But what's interesting about this is that Japan has never done a Blu-ray release. This is going to be the first Blu-ray release of the series. And I think the campaign's still ongoing, and I want to throw a few bucks into it, but I don't know if I'll get to.
Which series?
For Emma.
Oh,
yeah.
Actually, no, it is not the first release of the series.
It's the first Blu-ray release.
Blu-ray.
That's what I said.
I was gonna say I have the first DVD release.
Yeah, so that's what happens. Were you listening to my conversation? You're like a child that walks into the door.
Yeah, well, that's because I just came back from.
You did walk in the middle of the room, yes. So did you have a one to go on to?
Oh, I have plenty to go on.
Okay.
I got lots of stories.
All right, good times, good times.
Lots of news has come up in the last few weeks.
Right.
Robert Redford is officially not retiring after all. I guess he wasn't so happy with his retirement and decided, okay, maybe next time.
Well, apparently he was very upset and annoyed that everyone was talking about this new movie as his swan song. And he was kind of PO'd. He's like, the focus should be on the movie, not on me. So, you know what? I might retire, but I'm not officially retiring.
So you might see Robert Redford in the future.
Yeah,
it
sounds like he's kind of over the whole acting thing, but he apparently decided it would be better to leave the door open to maybe doing something he believes
in. You don't want people to talk about your swan song.
Yeah. I mean, that was, we were talking about Phantom Thread earlier. That was all everyone talked about with that movie.
Actually, though, in truth, that is a good swan song. I would be happy to go out on that.
Yeah. And Redford's new movie, what is it called again?
Is that the one where they're walking?
Something like The Old Man with a Gun or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. But that looks like it could be good. Well, I don't know. I haven't seen it. But, so speaking of people who could do better, this was actually one of the first news items from a couple weeks ago, so it's not like brand new news. But it's some Me Too stuff. Norm Macdonald was supposed to be on The Tonight Show, and his appearance was canceled because he made comments in defense of Chris Hardwick, Roseanne Barr, and Louis C.K., in which he made very clear that he considers C.K. still a buddy and he will stand by him. Which all of that is not so bad, but the way he said it came off as really insensitive to the people who were harmed by these people. So he is one of a handful of celebrities suffering badly from foot-and-mouth disease at the moment.
Well, he should have just been running for a Supreme Court.
Yes.
Or president.
Yes. Well, that job's been taken for the time being. Okay.
Speaking of odd and confusing,
yeah,
Henry Cavill situation. This is a very strange situation that happened last week. Okay, so
and no, we're not talking the mustache.
The rumors went around saying that Henry Cavill is leaving the role of Superman. And that he's feuding with WB. Or Warner Brothers, yeah. And so Warner Brothers had another rumor that Michael B. Jordan was going to take over as Superman. So people were really excited about having a black Superman. But then another rumor came out after Henry Cavill posted several weird YouTube videos of him holding Superman toys. That maybe the feud is actually a fake feud. And that maybe he's not retiring. But then Henry Cavill said, maybe I am. And then there was a weird post about maybe they need to have a Latino Superman because they want to make sure that he's better diverse. And then there was another post about how there should be a gay Latino Superman and make Lois Lane into a gay black man so that you have further representation. It's fun watching YouTube. And looking at Facebook posts. I mean, you got these political posts and weird things, but you know what? I could see that. I could see a gay Latino Superman in love with a black gay Louis Lane. And I mean, I don't know how well that would go over, but I would definitely buy a ticket. I mean, in truth, it would be very inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the public is ready for that yet, but you know what? I am. And that's true. It's not just me being facetious. Because Superman was created by people who were Jewish, and he was Jewish originally, Superman's character concept. So, you know, this is the idea, is that Superman is played an outcast. He has played this type of character who has been shunned and in the minority of the people. So, would it be a strange thing to have Superman being a gay Latino character? I mean, in reality, it would not be that strange.
Well, I don't know. If people aren't ready for a gay person to play Batwoman, then I don't know that they'll be able.
People are. It's not. That was not because they were upset that she was gay. It was because they were upset she was not gay enough.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot about.
So you just have to make sure he is gay enough to fall into the wall.
Some people. Okay, well, anyway. So, on less controversial and certain... Well, actually, I don't know if this is less controversial, but definitely in different news, a couple of different shows, very different shows, are getting live-action adaptations. And I'm very interested in both of these, to be honest. The one that is likely never going to come here, and I am furious at this because I want to see this. But there is a live-action Jigoku Shoujo in the works. Jigoku Shoujo was originally a 3-season, in my experience at least, a 3-season anime series released here under the name Hell Girl, which is pretty much a literal translation of Jigoku Shoujo. It's a good show. It's creepy. It's atmospheric. It's dark. It's creepy. Aenma, the Hell Girl, is a very interesting character. The show is a little repetitive because it kind of has a Monster of the Week feel, but it's fascinating because the, quote, monsters are the protagonists and the, quote, innocent people are the monsters of the week. It's really cool. It flips the whole Monster of the Week concept on its head, and I love it.
Indeed.
And then on the flip side of the American side, Netflix has announced a live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now,
is it based on Shyamalan's interpretation?
Obviously, because that was the most profitable and popular film ever made. Yeah, right. No, I've never actually seen Shyamalan's film. I've heard that it sucks horribly. But the show from Nickelodeon is great.
Yeah, it is.
And if Netflix really does this well, it could be a pretty cool series.
It could. It
so
has
we'll
potential.
see.
Speaking of just going with live action adaptations, Alan Wake is back in the world of whatever. It is back in the wake of all these live action adaptations. It's getting its own Netflix show. Now, I'm curious because Alan Wake is a sort of Lovecraftian a horror mixed with Stephen King horror type game. And I am curious how they will handle this in a TV series. I will watch it. I watched that just along with the Witcher series and the other weird stuff that they've been coming out with.
Other weird stuff.
Maybe
Cool.
Castlevania Season 2. I need to watch 1 first.
I saw most of that, and it was pretty good. I haven't gotten to see the rest. Well, actually, wait a minute. Maybe I did. It was only like 4 episodes, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I did see the whole thing. It was good. So, next one I have is, the next 2 are going to be screening ones. I feel like I'm probably running ahead of you, so I'm going to split these up. The first one is that My Neighbor Totoro, which we mentioned earlier, is getting a re-release here in the States for 3 nights only.
Yep.
Is similarly getting a screening in China. This is its 30th anniversary, actually.
Yeah, well.
And this will be the first ever Studio Ghibli film to have theatrical screenings in China. So, good for them. You know. Yep.
Well, this one's a big one. The EU did approve their controversial internet law, which is an update on copyright use claims. And many people call this the meme law because most memes would be struck down. Because any image or even mention of a property could be considered fair game for a copyright strike.
That's no fun.
So like me mentioning, say, the Totoro. If Ghibli wanted to, they could theoretically say, well, he mentioned us, strike.
So
take
even
it down.
a mention.
It could be. Now, this is they got the freedom to do that. Now, will they do it? It just means right now tighter restrictions on what you can do. Fair use might have a new adaptation or a new meaning.
Ugh.
There's a lot of crap with this. It's not entirely finished yet, but I'm telling you right now, the EU is ready to basically destroy most YouTube channels and most memes. So just be
Bastards.
prepared for that, for another shutdown on YouTube.
Be prepared. Oh man, that would suck. I like those memes. They're fun.
I've been
Cracked
following
would be
this for a while.
shut down.
But, it's people that are in there. I mean, there was this whole thing. Paul McCartney had said something like, look, if somebody is actually listening to my music in public, then there are people who are hearing my music and not paying for it. They're not giving the artist their due. So,
But on the other hand, if you play it in public, people who never would have heard it before will hear it, and maybe they'll like it, and then go buy the album.
And there is some good in this. Like, people who hold the copyright will get a little bit more money. People who use hyperlinks. So if we link to something, theoretically the people we link to could sue us for linking to them if we're in Europe. So, weird things.
Now that makes no sense. If you're going to say, hey, you can go here, and it's their official site, you'd think they'd want the additional traffic.
It's more for news sites who, if you link it and it's got the first couple of words of the story, people then don't go to the site because they can see the headline or something like that. It's
Never settle for headlines. Headlines are always lies.
It's better to read the article.
Yeah.
Though, if they're a major supporter of this, I probably wouldn't read their articles anyway.
Huh. Anyway. So, yeah, well, that's kind of scary, but anyway.
Yep, moving on.
Anyway.
Something lighter.
Something lighter, and this is lighter. In fact, I've heard that this is a very, very, very good movie, and I really want to see it, and I can't wait for this. Mirai of the Future, which is a somewhat redundant title since Mirai means the future. It is the new film from Mamoru Hosoda about a bratty child who comes into the acquaintanceship of his younger sister, who's actually his older version from the future. It's kind of complicated, but that's the basic gist of it. But it's supposedly a really good movie, one of his probably better films, and his films are pretty awesome. And it's gotten official screening dates for the end of November and start of December. So I will go see that one. It will happen.
Well, I've got another diversity piece, which is Crunchyroll did a trailer of sorts for their new anime that they're producing themselves. I guess it's not really an anime because it's not being produced in Japan, but it's called High Guardian Spice. It seems like a magic school type anime. And the whole thing was, basically look at the diversity of the characters, and we've got this diverse staff, and we got representation of races and sexual orientations and all this. This is why you should watch it. And people have been up in arms about this stuff. To me, I've got an odd take on this because I do believe that it does need to be checked out first. But I also believe that I'm also not going to watch it necessarily because of the representation. That's pandering. If it's good, it will be good in its own right. If you have to have gay characters or different culture characters to make people watch your series, it ain't a very good series.
Right.
But if you've got people of color and representations in a great series that has a great story and they fit in the story, that's a different angle whatsoever. And to me, I look at it as kind of potential laziness, as the saying, look, we're diverse, watch us because we're diverse, without telling us a lot about the series itself. And I want to know about the series and the diversity about the characters. It might draw me in as a nuance to the series.
Well, you never know. I haven't actually seen the advertisements myself, so I'm not sure how it looks.
But Will and Grace did have a was a series that drew people because of the LGBT Q characters.
To a degree.
To a degree.
Drew me in because it was funny.
Well, yeah, but that was the whole niche, I guess. But of course, this is back in '98. Yeah. So things were slightly different culturally then.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't really encouraged to watch stuff like that in '98. Go ahead and do a couple. If you have a couple that kind of fit together, I think you might
wanting to pick up our pace anyway.
Yeah, well, I've only got one left, but it's a big one.
Yeah, I can throw a couple of things in here. I'll keep the video game stuff together at the end. So, Roseanne is going to apparently die of an opioid overdose, which is, I guess, okay because she'll be in Israel for the premiere of her show, and I guess it's okay. I don't know if this is kind of insulting to the character or not. I didn't watch the first season. I want to watch it because I've been curious. I've heard it was really good. I'm a little bit more forgiving than everybody else of Roseanne, but at the same time, that was a very bad thing, and she need to do better with her apology.
Yeah. And you were just talking, though, about potential pandering and whatnot. I really hope they do this well.
Yeah.
If they do it poorly, it could be a very bad thing.
I'm really worried that they're going to just make it a joke.
Yeah.
That would be in bad taste.
That would be.
Christy Teigen says that we're pronouncing her name wrong all along. It's actually Teigen. She said it herself. I just thought that was cute. And the last thing that's movie related, just as a heads up to people, this was a story that was just more of a shocker story. It turned out to have a different meaning than it did. But there was a story about iTunes taking back some of their content that was digital. When you buy content that's digital and you don't download it, you are renting it. They can take it back at any time. Because really when you buy a product, you are actually renting the license. They just can't break into your house and take your DVD.
Yeah.
they can easily do that. Disney has done it multiple times in the past with Amazon. They've taken their Christmas stuff right before Christmas and say, oh, sorry, we're taking it back. But you can buy it again.
Yeah, of course you can.
So just be wary of this. This particular case, it wasn't what it seemed. They claimed that all their stuff was just taken by iTunes. iTunes had said that some of the licenses were drawn. She'd also had her licensed stuff in Australia, different country, and had moved here for it. So again, licenses held in Australia don't necessarily transfer here.
Yeah.
So again, she didn't really lose her stuff, but they did reaffirm that yes, they can take it in any time. So keep that in mind. This is one of the reasons why I like physical media.
Yeah.
If they break into my house and take my DVDs, they may have the right to take them back, but they don't have the right to break in my house and take them.
Nope.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So that's some crap there. Anyway, speaking of online stuff and shady dealings and that kind of stuff. No. That's not a good lead-in. Let's not do that. Much news has come out in the past week about Disney's upcoming streaming platform.
Yeah.
They, of course, have decided they are not going to play along and let Netflix and Hulu have all the fun. They have decided, we are Disney. We're going to do what we want to do, when we want to do it, how we want to do it, and we're going to expect you to pay for it. But I will say this, in the past couple weeks, announcements have come out that have made me genuinely intrigued about what they plan to do with this service. For one, this is just such a complete random, out of the blue, it made me go, huh? Well, one thing they've apparently already announced is that there will be a live-action Lady and the Tramp series.
Lovely.
Yeah, which is like, huh?
Alright.
One that was more logical that I think we knew about in advance, but they've kind of confirmed it. There will be a 10-episode Star Wars series directed by Jon Favreau, the creator of, or the director of Elf and Iron Man and Jungle Book. The guy can direct a movie, and they've got, I think it's like 100, was it 100 million in episodes? No, I think it was for 10 episodes.
Yeah.
But still, 10 million an episode. It's going to be, it could be really good. Mm-hmm. It could be just another example of oversaturation with Star Wars.
Well,
but
they are slowing down with the movies after this last one in the trilogy.
And I have hopes for Favreau being behind this. It could be good. Speaking of oversaturation with their movies, Marvel will be getting limited edition series based on the MCU. Kind of like what they tried to do with Agent Carter.
Or
which,
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, that was a full-blown series.
Yeah.
Agent Carter was a limited series. Yeah. And I liked Agent Carter.
They need to release that fully.
Yeah, they do. I want it. But they have announced that there will be several. They've not put out specifics, but they've heavily hinted that Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch and Tom Hiddleston's Loki will get their own series. So that could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the last one I just saw today, and this was an example of the whole, let's see what happens if you flip genders on their head and change things around. But I'm intrigued by the premise. I'm intrigued by the possibility that this could be awesome. We will see. I really, really, really need to read Nick Hornby's High Fidelity. I've never read it. I've heard it's really good. The movie already changed the book dramatically by taking it from England to the U.S., and John Cusack, of course, plays a schlubby music lover who runs a record store, who has two ne'er-do-well people who I hired them to work part-time and they just started showing up. And of course, Jack Black was one of the stars of that one.
Oh, great movie.
the great line. Do we look like the kind of store that sells "I just called to say I love you"? Go to the mall. But Disney apparently has decided they are going to severely adapt it yet again. This time, the main character is going to be a female who's tracking down her male former cohorts, dates, to learn what she did wrong. And she's going to be played by Zoe Kravitz, who is a very talented actress. So I'm intrigued. I don't know what will come of this. I doubt it'll be as awesome as the movie was, because the movie is a classic.
Yeah.
But I got hopes, and especially if they did like the movie did and make a point to have great music as a separate character in the thing,
High Fidelity,
that could be good.
It wasn't about the genders of the characters.
Yeah.
It was about the ensemble and, as you said, the music.
Yes.
If you got the ensemble and the music correct, I mean, you could do it well. I mean, Paul Feig could do that and do pretty well with it, actually. I think Paul Feig could do a good all-female High Fidelity remake.
He could, probably.
And, I think it would do well.
Actually, you know what might be really cool, though? And you'd appreciate this because you love Across the Universe. What if Julie Taymor did it?
Oh, possible, yeah.
That would be... Yeah.
Well, I've just got some video game news.
Okay.
Nintendo had their Direct, and a lot of it was about the Switch's online service, which I am on. It's pretty lackluster, but you're only paying $20 a year, so what can you get? But you can't go online and do online content, so if you don't pay, unless you like Fortnite. They must have paid the Switch people a lot of money, because Fortnite is exempt. You can play Fortnite without having to buy the online pass. You also get access to some of their old Nintendo catalog, which it's been re-released so many times I don't really care at this point. I did play a little Double Dragon, though, and it played fairly smooth.
Cool.
PlayStation Now is starting to look at a download for their service. It's been streaming only for games, which has been pretty bad because the streaming has a delay. You can imagine, like in, say, a fighting game where you're trying to do it, and imagine that you have a 1 second delay from when you put in your move to your actual move set, whereas your opponent has a half a second delay.
Well,
It might be a
that's some
slight
crap.
disadvantage, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're allowing for download of some of their games. Some select PS2 and some PS4 games, but none of the PS3 yet. I suspect that will increase in the future. Big news. Telltale Games is closing their doors. They left behind a limited number of people. They are the ones who produced the Walking Dead video game series. So they left behind 25 people to finish some obligations. So guess which obligation they're finishing? Minecraft Story Mode for Netflix. Not the last season of Walking Dead, which is going to now end in a cliffhanger at season 2. Sorry, Walking Dead fans. I kind of fell off at season 3, I'll admit it, even though I own it. But now I'm not even sure I want to play season 3 because I now know there's no end to the story. But they have some fun adventure games. It's well worth playing. I have a few. The Guardians of the Galaxy one was hilarious. And it's just, in general, it's sad to see a company like this go. But there have been some weird rumors around it. I'm not going to go into depth, but pour one out for the Walking Dead game. It's unfortunately over. Last but not least, one that's close to my heart, the PS Vita is finally being discontinued. They're stopping manufacture. Last year, they ended... Need to turn off your phone thing there. They stopped manufacturing games a year ago, physical games, and now they're finally stopping their manufacture of other things. So now the actual Vita. The Vita's been kind of in a downhill slope since early on. It's kind of sad, but makes sense. Sony just didn't back it like it should. But the Vita really is what the Switch... to me, I swear Nintendo took the Vita and said, okay, well, Sony has no interest in this type of technology. We're going to improve upon it, and then we are going to make it our own. Because the Vita has everything the Switch pretty much was. The Vita could play your PlayStation 4 games. It could stream it to the Vita. It had touch compatibility. It was pretty much what the Switch decided to... I think it's the prior evolutionary step to the Switch.
Right.
It's what Sony could have had. I'm telling you.
Yep.
Sony, you made a mistake.
Yep.
But that's about it. I think we're pretty much done this time. I've got fish to take out of the oven. So,
I'm sure y'all are all well and truly sleeping soundly by now.
So, in any case, I hope you all enjoyed our vlogcast this week. Next week will be a shorter vlogcast because we will be catching up just on a week.
Right.
Instead of
Plus,
2.
we got a top 15 to get through, so that's going to be our big focus.
We're going to be rushing.
Yeah.
So, in any case, I wish you all well.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.
Take care.
Goodbye.